Hey everybody, how's it going? Christian from Treasure Town here, and today we're covering something that I think is super important, super interesting, and definitely something that anybody checking their change needs to watch. And that's a discussion on the valuable and best repunched mint mark pennies to be looking for. Now, I compiled a list of 10. There are more out there, and I'll talk more about that as the presentation goes along. But what we'll be doing is taking a look at the different photos and ways that these errors manifest on the coin. We'll also talk a little bit about how the repunching of the mint mark actually occurs. And another critical component to this video is that I think that these are all conceivable to be finding in your change. I'm not going super far back. Everything's from the 60s or newer, so it's not like I'm telling you to look for wheat pennies, errors on your wheat pennies and pocket change. That could be reserved for a different video. I think that this is more for the person who's trying to get started and looking for a good spot to start. And I think it's also helpful to consider it all in this context of repunched mint marks so that you don't get confused at this point with other types of errors that you can be looking for. So let's go to the presentation. I'll be talking about the values and talking about the values at different conditions, and obviously have photos of these errors that we'll be talking about. We're going to go starting from the oldest and working our way up through the years. And here is the first of our errors with a repunched mint mark that I want to bring to your attention that's valuable, that you should know about. And that's the 1960D penny, and it is somewhat of a combo error, and it's the only so-called combo error that we're going to be talking about today. And that's because it's also a double die obverse, but there is a repunched mint mark, and that's a great way to diagnose that you have the coin. And you're going to want to look in the Denver mint mark, which, just so you know, for those of you who are new, we're going to be looking right under the date on the front of the coin. And if there's a mint mark there, that means it's made in Denver. And you're going to look above it. There's going to be this faint outline that looks like the shape of a D, except it's not quite as defined. And this one's a super valuable coin. It's $100 in circulated, about uncirculated condition, $250 in mint state 63, which is like a uncirculated coin, really nice and new looking, but it's got some dings or something. Then mint state 65 is a really pristine looking coin. $500 is going to be the value if you have one of those. So definitely one to look out for. There's also, though, a 1960D penny where it's just a repunched mint mark, and it's a lot more pronounced than the previous one. In the past, you have to look kind of close to see it, very pronounced up top. This one's kind of left, right, east, west, and that's an up-close photo, but you really want to look for what looks like a second part of the D coming out from the left of it. And this one is surprisingly not actually worth quite as much. It's about $5 in AU50, $20 in mint state 63, and $35 in a great looking mint state 65. And that's kind of the pattern. One thing is that repunched mint marks are a little bit more common, found on a lot of different types of coins. And while they're cool errors, they're not quite as valuable for the most part. The next one that we're going to be taking a look at is a 1961D penny, and this one's also just one where it's pretty clearly repunched. It's coming out of the left, but it doesn't have quite the split amount as the last one. This one, kind of a bit of a tilt as well. And this one's only $2 in AU50, $10 mint state 63, $25 mint state 65, but definitely something worth looking for, especially if you have like a roll of 1961D pennies, and especially if they're uncirculated. Our next find is the 1968D penny, and it's similar in value, but a little bit easier to tell if you have it. This time, there's a bit of a tilt. It's still coming out of the left of the coin, but it's more pronounced in terms of that bottom part of the mint mark on the left side. So you can also see a little bit in the inside of the curved part. You can see how there's something under there as well. Now, for those of you wondering how repunched mint marks get made, basically the mint mark is added in a separate process from everything else on the coin, so that's why sometimes you have a repunched mint mark and a double die, sometimes there's no double die. It's not like the mint mark is doubled along with the rest of the coin. What happens is they try to stick the mint mark onto the die that then is used to strike all the coins, and sometimes that mint mark, when it's punched, is not fixed or it doesn't make a good imprint, so I have to do it again. And generally it's not significant enough where they completely get a new die and throw out the old one. Instead, they have this repunching problem. And this one's worth $2 in AU50, $10 in Mint State 63, and $25 in Mint State 65. I did want to include one with an S mint mark, and here is the most pronounced one on a regular strike coin, 1970S. And this one is a little bit more valuable, but I think it's really cool because the two S's really are just totally kind of all over the place. And it looks like it doesn't even look really like an S. You can definitely tell if you have this one. And it's worth $6 in AU50, $15 in Mint State 63, and $60 in Mint State 65. So definitely a little bit better on the more uncirculated side. And the S Mint coins were made from 68 to 74 for circulation. So I think that's kind of neat. I wish that they would also make more coins nowadays that are put in circulation now that S Mint mark is used mostly for collector coins or proof coins. Another 2 years later, we have a Repunched mint mark penny that I just think is, again, noticeable enough where I'd bring it up, and that's 1972. Also, as is the pattern with most of these, it's not like they're crazy off from one another. Normally it's just one slightly to the left or to the right. You can also see this on the inside of the mint mark again. $2 for AU50, $7 for MS63, and $30 for Mint State 65. But one big thing is with these prices, it could vary a little bit in a different direction. Like if somebody had a nice looking AU50 coin, I might be tempted at a coin show for like $5 or a little bit more than that, especially if it's Mint State and it's a really nice looking one. If the right person wants it to add to their error collection or variety collection, they're probably going to go ahead and purchase it at a slightly higher price than what I'm talking about. 1984 yet again has one of these, and as I go along, I just want to say, there's repunched mint marks that they have potential pretty much to occur on any of these coins, even past the dates that I'm talking about, and in between them. These are just some of the better examples, and that's a big thing to know about and just kind of understand with the repunched mint mark, is that if you look at a ton of coins with mint marks, if they're really uncirculated or something, and you have a way to check and you're experienced with it, you can probably end up finding a repunched mint mark even if there aren't previously reported ones or there are very little evidence about them existing. It's just something that happened on a relatively frequent scale, so you might be able to get one. But again, this one is a $2 coin in AU50, $7 in Mint State 63, and $30 in Mint State 65, similar to that 1972. Next up, we have one that is actually considered a better one, and that's the 1987 D penny for whatever reason. This one is just more celebrated, it's more recognized, and it's less of like a left-right spread, a little bit more north-south, and you can really see that kind of in the top of the D mint mark. This one goes for $25 in AU50, $60 in Mint State 63, and $75 in Mint State 65. 1 year later, there would be another mint mark that I think is better looking, more well pronounced, but then the prices don't kind of reflect that, and that's 1988. Again, it's a bit more of a north-south, also a slight tilt, so maybe northwest-southeast. $5 in AU50, $30 in Mint State 63, and $70 in Mint State 65. So there is a little bit more recognition as this gets to better conditions. 1989D has kind of just a weird repunch mint mark on the right. There's also multiple repunchings for some of these dates, so this is an example. Over here, there's just a little protrusion in the bottom, whereas here, it's kind of on the inside part of the straight part of the mint mark. And this one goes for, or both of them really go for $5 in AU50, $30 in Mint State 63, and $50 in Mint State 65. That brings me to the topic of getting these certified. I think if you already have a really good condition coin you want to check for repunched mint marks, I think if you're going to get $20 or $30 if it's uncirculated, probably not quite worth sending it in unless you think it's like Mint State 67, 68, and it has a clear repunched mint mark. At that point, you might want to, but that's just a little food for thought in that section. But with that being said, remember, not all of the repunched mint marks are confined to the dates I talked about. They're just good photos here and ones that really show what the repunchings look like. It could be on a D mint mark, could be on an S mint mark, and it could extend to other denominations as well. All the time, people come up with a new repunched mint mark that has never been seen before, and I hope that you can as well. Thanks for watching the video. I'd encourage you to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more content, and get in touch with me or contact on treasuretown.yt.com, my website, my Facebook, Treasuretown, my Twitter, @treasuretown_YT, or my Instagram, @treasuretown_YT. Looking forward to seeing you on some of my other videos.